Today we're going to talk about how to start crochet, and the loop through the loop is basically all it is. You'll see different types of crochet hooks. This one's got a flat area with kind of a sharp edge. This one's another kind that's got a rounded everything. People come up with their preferences of what they like, and you'll figure that out over time. Here's a very tiny one. The size of the needle has to do with the size of the yarn that you're using, or the thread. I don't happen to have any thread with me, but there's also crochet thread that you can use, like this needle, to make lace. I've made little teeny tiny snowflakes, things like that. This is almost thin enough to use this size on. Not quite small enough, and it's kind of fuzzy, but a small size yarn fits a small size needle or crochet hook. And this is a worsted weight. It's kind of a medium, so that would be similar size to this. And then there's also bulky yarns, which I couldn't find my bulky yarn, but this is a kind of the same kind of thing as a bulky yarn. And you would use a big needle because you have so much thickness that you're making loops with. So here's a slip knot. So if you pull the side and pull the side, it comes right back out. That's a slip knot. So you made a loop. Hold on to the tail, reach through the loop through the loop. There's a stitch. Reach the loop through the loop. There's a stitch. Reach the loop through the loop. There's a stitch. Reach a loop through the loop. There's a stitch. Reach the loop through the loop. There's a stitch. Now this is finger crochet. I mean, this is just using your fingers instead of a hook, but this is the same thing. A loop through a loop. Pull it through. And then if you want to undo it, you just hold the tail and you pull the other side. It comes right back out. So I can do the exact same thing with a hook, a crochet hook. So I start with my, can tighten this size down. It's going to be a smaller stitch. So you can just wrap it over the top, and then you have these other fingers holding the tail so it stays in place. But I'm putting the hook through, and then I'm just grabbing the yarn and pulling it through the hole. So it's already in there. I don't have to put my fingers in each time. The hook is already there. So I just wrap it, pull it through, wrap it, pull it through. And this is the foundation chain for any variety of things. So loop through a loop. And depending upon the size of the hook you use, you'll have a different size stitch. So if I use that great big one, I obviously need to have a bigger hole. But you'll see that this is going to make a bigger stitch. It's going to have space in between that's really big. And sometimes you want that. So you can see the chain is hugely bigger because the hook is hugely bigger. So you want to match what you're looking for. Eventually you'll figure this out. You can also use a smaller hook. It just won't work very well because the yarn is so big. So you can squish it through, pull it through, pull it through, pull it through. Oops. Because the yarn is so big, sometimes it separates the plies. But you can see that each of these stitches is a different, oops, caught the ply again. So unless you're going to use thread, I wouldn't use this size needle. But this is a similar size to the yarn for this. So you can see this one went with this hook. This one went with this hook. And this one is tighter, one with this hook. And I wasn't doing it very tight because I wanted to pull it through. So you can see how they look different. You just pull and it all comes right back out. So I'll go back to the correct size for this worsted weight yarn. So here's my chain. And that's the first thing that you practice. And if you pull a lot, you'll have great big huge loops that are floppy. If you make it really tight, so that only the head can go through, then you'll have smaller bits. So you'll kind of figure out what that is. But that's the first step, making stitches.